Well, I can't believe that we are coming to the end of our Build Strong season. Just what a great start to 2020. New year, new decade. Let's build strong. I hope you've been blessed and enjoyed it. Circles are just now about halfway over. So we're right into the middle of a great season of circles. But here we are at the last video inside of our Build Strong season. I just want to encourage you right now. We're about a month away from one of the most important seasons of invitation and the most important season for the Christian church, and that is Easter. And I just want to ask you, we're talking about it on the weekends right now, but to really be praying for those that are lost in our city, in our community. We're going to be giving you some opportunities to invite those people around you and resourcing you in different ways to do that. But just be praying, remembering as a circle, hey, circle captains, help us lead in this way. Be praying for One Big Sunday on March 29th, Serve Day on April 4th, Palm Sunday, April 5th, Easter Sunday, April 12th. Man, it is just going to be 5 or 6 weeks here, I believe, of just a great harvest and people finding spiritual family just like each one of you have and are, even as you're gathered in that circle. We talked about stewardship on Sunday. We defined it, we started here. More than managing the present, it's about securing the future. And we talked about being generous and wise and creative, honoring our past and our present and our future with what we have in our hand today. And I'm actually going to do something really cool. I'm just going to tell you, if people don't watch the video or they miss this circle, they are going to miss out on one of the coolest parts of the Bible, coolest stories in the Bible. I'm going to tell it to you today, wherever you are. Okay? And listen, this ain't in the book. It's in this book. It's not in our Build Strong book. It wasn't in any of the devotionals. It wasn't in any of the messages. But it is connected to the entire Bible and to the story of Jacob and Joseph. Joseph is by far the most prominent son of Jacob. 13 boys, 12 of them are the 12 tribes of Israel, Reuben to Benjamin. But Joseph is that one sold into slavery in Egypt, favored there in the pit, the prison, and the palace there. And then he oversees the food distribution like we talked about a few weeks ago. And Jacob and his family move right outside of Egypt to Goshen, which is really the first permanent home of Abraham's lineage since Genesis chapter 11, where God says, leave your country and go to the land I will show you. Now, this promised land is not Egypt. And we know that the children of Israel are eventually enslaved by the Egyptian people. But it is in the providence of God for this to be a 400-year home for Jacob's descendants, the children of Israel. But here's where it's cool. We're going to talk about the life of Jacob and Joseph, and we're going to start with Hebrews. Okay? So if you have a Bible, get your phone out. You're going to want to follow these scriptures. Hebrews 11 says, verse 1, now faith is the assurance of things we hope for, the conviction of things not seen. And so Hebrews 11 is this record of people that lived by faith. Faith is the substance of things I hope for, and it's this assurance or conviction of things I don't see yet. Well, then in verse 22, it gives us an example connected to the story. It's so cool. By faith, Joseph, at the end of his life, made mention of the Exodus, which this is in Genesis chapter 50, the Exodus of the Israelites, and gave direction, remember this, concerning his bones. Concerning his bones. Okay. Now we're going to turn back in our Bible, not to Genesis or Exodus or Leviticus or Numbers or Deuteronomy, but to Joshua. At the moment that the children of Israel are really established in the promised land, right? So Moses across the Red Sea, Joshua across the Jordan River, Jericho, battles and cities, and they take control and they inhabit the promised land. At the end of the book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 32, it says this, Joshua 24:32. As for the bones of Joseph, which the people of Israel brought out of Egypt, so Joseph, Jacob's son, dies in Egypt. When the children of Israel are set free by Moses and they come out of Egypt, they bring the bones of Joseph and they carry them and they buried them. I'm back in Joshua 24 now. They buried them at Shechem in the piece of land that Jacob bought from the sons of Nahor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money. It became an inheritance to the descendants of Joseph. Okay, I'm going to try to stay on this stool. You try to stay on that couch. Shechem is where Abraham first receives the promise of God. When he leaves his family's house in Genesis 11 and 13, he comes, and one of the places where he sees a vision of God calling his descendants to be as the stars of the heaven and the sands of the sea, and those who bless you I will bless, those who curse you I will curse, and this promise given to us by Jesus Christ in the New Testament. But just historically, Shechem is where Abraham receives the promise. And 750 years later, they bring the bones of Joseph and they bury him formally as this sign. You're the God who keeps your word. In the midst of our own sin, our own failure, our own mistakes, Abraham had plenty. Isaac made mistakes. Jacob, we've studied him. In the midst of slavery and plague and pain and conquest and defeat, they carry these bones of the patriarch because they know that one day they will stand in the promise of Abraham. And how many people didn't experience that but believed? As they passed, I just think about this. As people passed away, and leaders of families passed away, and leaders of tribes passed away, they would tell their children and their grandchildren, don't forget to carry the bones of Joseph. He is evidence that the promise will be fulfilled. Bury him when you get to the place. And I just want to just encourage you from this story that God will take you there. Wherever it is you're believing for, even if you're just a piece of the journey, don't get discouraged. You may be building something that your kids live in someday. I pray that you are. You're building a life. You're leaving an inheritance, not just financial, which is a blessing, but a legacy, a spiritual legacy. Right? When your friends, they disconnect from church, you don't. Because you're laying bones. You're building a foundation. You're saying, no, I'm gonna be faithful. Because I know that God will take us there. He's taking me from one place, glory to glory, faith to faith. That's how God works in our lives. God will take you there. Here's another encouragement. God has a bigger plan than what you see today. I pray that gives you hope. That whatever it is that's clouding your view, blinding your vision, can I just tell you that God has a bigger plan for you and your life and your future and your children and your calling than you see today. And here's the last one. God is looking for stewards to bless. God brings the children of Israel to their promised land. And it's one of the reasons is because they learned to recognize all that God had done and they carried it with them. It's the bones of Joseph. It's such an amazing, in Hebrews 11, Joshua 24, Genesis 50. It's this amazing connection in Scripture that shows us that God's faithful, that He's going to take us there, that He sees us even when we can't see Him. Here's a couple questions I want to leave you with, man, as we end this series. But I want you to go around the room and answer this. What has been your favorite part of Jacob's story? From the beginning where he grabs the heel of his brother to Joseph and the brothers in Egypt, or wrestling with the angel, the man sent from heaven in the middle of the story when he made gumbo. I mean, when was it when Jacob made gumbo and fooled his brother and made the great trade? What's your favorite part of Jacob's story? What is blocking your view today of the bigger picture? Pray for each other tonight. Encourage each other tonight. Let's build strong together.